The new the new attitude. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz.
CIMB Group Holdings Group CEO Dato' Abdul Rahman Ahmad says the bank remains concerned and cautious in the second half of FY21 due to potential downside risks of COVID-19 resurgence, adding to the uncertainty surrounding the opening and recovery of regional economies. As such, he says the bank has lowered its loan growth guidance for FY21 to between 2 and 3% due to the challenging environment. Earlier, CIMB had provided a guidance of 4 to 5% for FY21. For the second quarter, CIMB's net profit had near quadrupled to 1.08 billion, while revenue rose 21% to 4.67 billion from 3.87 billion previously. It declared a first interim dividend of 10.44 cents per share. It was a similar story for the first half of FY21, where net profit spiked more than fourfold to 3.54 billion, lifted mainly by a significant net contribution from exceptional items. It was primarily the one-off revaluation gain of 1.16 billion from the deconsolidation of TNG Digital reported earlier in the first quarter. However, improvement in the first half was also driven by higher operating income, strong cost containment, and significantly lower provisions compared with the first half of FY20. Revenue for the period rose 33% to 10.63 billion. CIMB is also expecting a margin expansion of 10 to 20 BPS in net interest margins for FY21, despite facing margin pressure in the second half. CFO Khairul Rafi says this is mainly driven by the absence of the negative impact coming from the rate cuts that happened in 2020, coupled with the group's liability optimization in the first half. However, the margin compression will come in when the effects of the optimization taper off, adding pressure on the cost of deposits. FGV Holdings saw its second quarter net profit skyrocket over 16 times year-on-year to 338.8 million from the 20.6 million reported in the second quarter of FY20. Revenue for the quarter improved by 42% to 3.29 billion ringgit. This jump was mainly attributed to increased palm products margin, improved gross profit margin for its sugar business, as well as higher throughput and cargo volume by its logistics business. FGV also reported a fair value gain on land lease agreement of 180 million compared with a fair value charge on LLA of 76 million registered in the previous year's quarter. For the first half of FY21, FGV recorded a net profit of 303.4 million versus a net loss of 121.8 million previously, as revenue grew 33% to 8.08 billion. Newly appointed Group CEO Muhammad Nazrul Izzam Mansor says the group is expediting its vaccination program for all workers as part of its mitigation effort in managing the risk of infections at its operations. FGV also reiterated its commitment to focus on enhancing its labour practices under its affiliation with US-based Fair Labour Association. The planter updated that the implementation of the FGV FLA action plan is ongoing, covering various aspects, including recruitment process and human rights training, among others. This is aimed at addressing the withhold release order issued by the US Customs and Border Protection against its palm oil and palm oil products. On its prospects, Muhammad Nazrul pointed to FGV's recent memorandum of collaboration with Felcra and Qatar-based Baladna Food Industries to carry out a comprehensive study on potentially co-investing in an integrated dairy farm in Chupeng Perlis. AMMB Holdings saw its net profit for the first quarter of FY22 grow by 5.9% year-on-year to 386.6 million, mainly driven by higher net income and lower other operating expenses, which helped margins. This was despite revenue for the quarter dipping by 5.3% to 2.21 billion ringgit. Group CEO Dato' Sulaiman Muhammad Tahir says that Malaysia's road to economic recovery continues to be bumpy, with the recent resurgence in COVID-19 infections and the reimposition of movement restrictions impacting many businesses. Sulaiman adds that while AMMB foresees increased impairment risk to its credit portfolios, this will only become apparent in the latter part of FY22 and that its mitigatory efforts remain in place. As for its prospects, Sulaiman says that an economic rebound is expected to be reliant on the loosening of movement restrictions coupled with the timely completion of the nationwide vaccination drive. As such, he says AMMB will continue to place customer needs at the forefront while spearheading new paradigm shifts in an increasingly dynamic and digital banking environment while adhering to good cost discipline. Leong Bank's fourth quarter FY21 net profit rose 21% to 689.5 million, mainly due to higher share of profit from associated companies and net income. Quarterly revenue also grew 11% to 1.33 billion from 1.2 billion. It declared a final dividend of 35.22 cents a share, bringing the total dividend for FY21 to 50 cents a share for a payout ratio of 36%. As for its full-year report card, net profit for FY21 increased by 14.7% to 2.86 billion, while revenue grew 14.4% to 5.47 billion. The group's capital and liquidity positions continue to be healthy, while loans to deposits ratio improved to 84%. MD and CEO Dominic Fuda said in a statement that the economic environment remains challenging, but that continued policy support and vaccine progress should help cushion uncertainties from the pandemic. He adds that this new normal environment will undoubtedly present HLB with growth opportunities that the bank will endeavour to capture by being agile and responsive to the changing landscape. Sime Darby is collaborating with Porsche to assemble sports cars exclusively for the Malaysian market. The cars will be assembled at Sime Darby's motor vehicle and production facility, with production slated to start in 2022. It will be the first assembly plant of the German sports car manufacturer outside Europe. Sime Darby Group CEO Dato' Jeffrey Salim Davidson says that this partnership marks the coming of age of its relationship with the brand and a key element in the group's growth strategy as it moves from retail and distribution to include assembly. He explains that to be entrusted to assemble cars for one of the world's most admired sports car brands speaks volumes about the highly qualified and competent Malaysian talent that Sime Darby has within its ranks. Jeffrey also assures that each Porsche assembled by Sime Darby will go through the same rigorous standard and processes as its European counterparts. Meanwhile, Porsche member of the executive board for sales and marketing, Detlef von Platten, says the luxury car maker is looking forward to its locally assembled cars reaching Malaysian customers next year. He says that Malaysia and the ASEAN region are gaining increasing importance, and this step is part of a long-standing initiative to keep pace with rapidly evolving demands.
This program was brought to you by Mercedes-Benz.